Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me on this podcast. And we appreciate you joining us every Sunday and also on other platforms. Now, recently we were celebrating KK at 100. Many people were so nostalgic about the independence struggle and the celebration of independence in those early days. In fact, you could say that there are some generation to generation lessons to be learned. We also know that the month of May is when the whole African continent celebrates first the birth of the OAU 1963, which later on in 2002-3 became the African Union. And so today on my conversation, I thought maybe let's take a glimpse back into history and just look at how far we've come as a nation, as a country. We'll be celebrating 60 years of independence this year. What can we learn from those who were there from the beginning? I'm so privileged to have as the guest on the conversation today, Lieutenant Colonel Henry Mioba. Some of you will remember him. How are you, sir?
Fine, thanks, madam. How are you too?
I'm very well, and it is so good to have you. How have you been? I remember hearing your name on TV and radio all the time growing up.
Yes. The younger people are now approaching us to share ideas, to learn. You know, learning is a two-way traffic. You learn from the younger ones, and the younger ones also learn from the old ones like me. Yes.
Recently, we celebrated KK at 100. What did you do on that day? What thoughts were going through your mind?
I appeared on CNBC radio on that day, and I did speak well, although the time was too short.
There's too much to say.
For me to catch all the corners about KK. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Now let's go back. 1964. How old were you then at the time of independence?
I think I was about 22 years old. I was mature enough. And I was already in the civil service.
Okay.
I was under the Minister of Finance. The Minister of Finance sent me to government stores because I had specialized in purchasing and supply. At that time, the only department that was dealing with the government issues was the government stores. Now, this was facilitated by a coalition government. In 1962, we had elections arranged by the Federation of Rhodesia and Nyasaland. We had the lower law and the upper law. Whites were voting at the upper law, and the All Blacks were voting under the lower law. And it was only Musumbulu who qualified as a black man to vote in the upper law category.
Mr. Musumbulu.
Out of all the Zambians at that time. At that time, I was the youth, this was 1962, I was the youth organizing secretary for UNIP. And I was living in Kabwata. And I was nominated by by Kenneth Kaunda, to mobilize the youth to vote for the lower law, not for the upper law.
For the black people.
There were 4 political parties that took part in the elections. There we had the ANC, led by Ari Mwanga Nkumbula, UNIP, led by the late Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, and we had United Federal Party and the Liberal Party. Out of these 4 political parties, there was no winner. They all lost. And I remember very well, UNIP had 17 seats, ANC 7. And because KK and Ari Mwanga Nkumbula worked so well together, between the two, you could not tell whether KK was the UNIP and Ari Mwanga Nkumbula was ANC, or Ari Mwanga Nkumbula was the UNIP. Their upbringing was so nice, all of them. Although, if you remember before that, KK was the Secretary General for ANC. I'll give you the history how UNIP broke away later from ANC. So, hadi mwanga nkumbula asketi Kenneth Kaunda Keke, my dear, why can't we form a coalition government? And when you add 17 seats and 7, you are home and dry. You are over 24, or around about 24 seats there. And Kenneth Kaunda became the first black prime minister during the Federation of Rhodesia and Nyasaland. And this facilitated a lot of happenings in terms of development in this country.
Let me just take you back. At that time, all of you young men from different parts of Zambia, you were 22 and the youth chairman. You felt called to the cause of the country to fight for liberation, for independence?
Yes, I was. Mind you, at that time, we had only 6 suburbs in Lusaka. Matero, Chinika, Chiboria, Kamwara, Kabwata, and Chirenje, that's all. The rest were all farms around the small town by then of Lusaka. And me, first of all, I lived in Chinika, then later on moved to Kabwata.
And that's where you learned the politics?
Yes, well, I worked very closely with our national chairman, the late Scott Awina, who was in charge of the youth. But before I came to Lusaka, I come from Chinsali. I had on various occasions time to speak to Simon Mwanza Kapoepo, my uncle in the family affair, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, Mr. Makapasa Makasa, many prominent people that influenced me or guided me to take politics as a profession. I was guided very well and I was briefed in so many areas. So I did not just start politics here, no. I started way back at home, and the potential that KK saw in me, I could not tell, because as an individual, I was only called, can you do A, B, C, D, and I want to do what I was taught to do. But I'm among those few politicians who specialize in politics as a political educator.
Okay. Now, from 66, UNIP then, the government began a lot of reforms, changes with national development plans to really turn around the living standards of the people with nationalization of companies, with creation of new companies, with investment in education, in various infrastructure. How were you feeling? You were still in your 20s at that point. How were you feeling? Were you hopeful? Independence has come and this is what we're going to do for our country.
Well, first of all, the current leadership and that leadership are completely different. The current leadership is for money. The previous leadership was for free service, to promote the living standards of Zambian people. That was the leadership. I do recall during the struggle for our independence, Kaunda promising Zambians to say, when we become an independent state, we are going to nationalize the economy. Economy will be in your hands. Because what's the purpose of independence? If the economy like today is in the hands of foreigners, can you say we are an independent state? The answer is no. We are not an independent state. We have been recognized by the foreigners who are controlling the economy.
So at that time, you all had one purpose, the economy in the hands of Zambians.
That's all. We had one purpose, all of us, including ANC. We had all one purpose. We only had 2 political parties at that time. Economy in the hands of Zambians. First of all, political governance in the hands of Zambians, economy in the hands of Zambians, social in the hands of Zambians. All these three governance aspects or principles were placed in the hands of Zambians. Now, we had one small problem that delayed nationalization of the economy. At the time of independence, we only had 100 graduates.
100.
And those 100 graduates came from Western Province and Southern Province. One or two, the Mwanakatwa is from Northern, Mbala, Abekon by then, and the other one, remember my uncle, Samu Mwansakapwepwe, who had a degree in shoemaking, and one or two from the Eastern Province. Now, nationalization was delayed because we were lacking sufficient manpower.
Educated Zambians.
So what we did was from our own pockets, we were to build University of Zambia. That's a UNIP university, a university built by the poor people. So we had to wait for 4 more years or 5 years for the first graduates from the University of Zambia for us to nationalize the economy. And therefore, in 1968, we called for a nationalization or a national forum at Kabwe, Mulungushi Local Authority, and we nationalized the economy. We had sufficient manpower. We did not care whether a company is run by a Muzungu, a white person. No. we had to place this in the hands of Zambians. And we are operating very well. Yes, I agree that 1 or 2 companies were not operating efficiently. But even though they were not operating efficiently, the best way they should have done is to just change the management in that organization.
When I've read all the national development plans, especially under UNIP, I think there were 4 of them, all of them, without doubt, talk about agriculture as the vehicle for transformation in rural areas. Did you pay sufficient attention? Do you feel you paid sufficient attention as the leadership to agriculture to transform rural areas?
Yeah, first of all, I'm the only surviving member of Rural Development Committee of UNIP, the only surviving member. I was the youngest in that Central Committee under chairmanship of Ruben Tsanika Kamanga. I'm the only surviving member. Now, rural development means priority was given to rural areas. We had the state farms in your district. We did not allow peasant farmers, commercial farmers, to only get involved in the production of food. No. We had to get involved. And the peasant farmers and commercial farmers were at liberty to export maize to sell, because the government produced more than the commercial farmers. At that time, commercial farmers were very few. Maybe they were not even more than 10. But peasant farmers, and mind you that at that time, most of the maize, for example, most of the maize was produced in Southern Province, followed by Eastern Province. These are the 2 provinces that fed the whole country. The rest came after, like we members is millet. It's a many system. So we had to make sure that agriculture picks up, because you cannot develop on an empty stomach. Can you?
No.
You can't. When you talk about development, it means that people must be energetic. People must take nutritious food stuff. And therefore, we had to create state farms. You remember rural construction centers in Zambia? Were created. And we produce more food than the number of population of people that we had in Zambia. And this should have been continued with by all the government that came after UNIP. MMD should continue to this. But they abandoned that. I remember at one time, may so rest in peace, Frederick Chilwa saying agriculture is business. So let every Zambian go by himself or by herself. That's not the best approach as a newly independent country. At that time, we were only about 27 years, 28 years.
Lieutenant Colonel Muyoba has just highlighted how the current regimes are all about money and not free service like UNIP was. After the break, he explains how Zambia cannot develop because each time a new party comes into power, they always start afresh and not continue with previous regime projects. Before the break, Lieutenant Colonel Muyoba highlighted how current governments are all about money and not leadership.
Look at America, Britain, Germany, all these developed countries. Even now they subsidize agriculture because it's key.
Let me ask this question. Even with all this energy in the reforms, you went a step further and pronounced humanism. What was the motivation? And I'm sure many young people have actually even forgotten that at one point you could not listen to the news without hearing the term humanism. What was the motivation by the leadership at that time?
Yeah, first of all, when you look at various philosophies, foreign philosophies, capitalism, socialism, Marxism, there are many philosophies. There's no philosophy that matches the Zambian culture. None of them. Our culture is God-given. Zambian culture is based on love, nothing else. Peace and unity comes from love. When you love one another, you're able to maintain unity and peace. It's a Zambian culture. Let me take you slightly a little bit backwards. The Zambian culture is centered on helping one another. In the villages, today, if Mubita wants to go and do farming in the village, Walubita will join, the whole village will join Mubita for 2-3 days just working on the field of Mr. Mubita. So this is Zambian culture. And you look at the Zambian culture, we have got what we call insaka. Are you with me? All tribes in Zambia have got insaka. There's no tribe in Zambia that hasn't got insaka, where you share ideas, where you share wisdom, where you plan it together and execute tasks together. This is what matters now to say now. If the Zambian culture does not marry in any of these philosophies, how shall we rule this country? The best way is to come up with our own philosophy that matches the Zambian culture. Humanism, I must tell you, is God philosophy. It's centered on love. Humanism is centered on love. And if you see the way Dora Kaunda managed this country, there was no rich person. There was no poorest of the poor who were all together. There was no class society. We refuse as UNIP. And when UNIP bounces back, we are going to go back to the Kaunda's legacy. All those who have acquired so many properties from nowhere, we are going to say no.
One of the greatest criticisms of your leadership from independence was exactly that keeping Zambians poor. In a world today with social media where young people can see what it is possible to own property, to own ordinary Zambians, young people, how do you reconcile the generation-to-generation lessons from humanism to the 60 years today, the Zambia of today, where a 25-year-old person wakes up and dreams of, I must own a house at all cost?
Very good. It's a fantastic idea. But that house must be earned in a genuine way, not in a corrupt way. And what UNIP did for each one of us to acquire wealth, we gave employment to every Zambian. There was no lawfare during UNIP era because of the parastatos. Parastatos were semi-government organizations, and the civil service was large compared to the way the civil service is today. Everybody was a worker, and each Zambian used to have 3 to 4 meals per day because food was there.
Okay.
So now, if you buy 3-4 houses in a genuine manner, nobody will trouble you because you have the records to produce. You can't from nowhere because today you were minister or you were permanent secretary, from nowhere, based on when we look at your salary and the property you have got. We don't agree. We say, no, there must be something fishy here. How?
Well, another criticism of independence leadership has been that because of government creating all these parastatals that were said to have been inefficient, you didn't allow genuine entrepreneurship, private sector entrepreneurship. That's why up to today, the mines are still foreign owned because it was not allowed for ordinary Zambians with business brands who could have been owning the KCMs and the Mopanis and other even precious stone mines. How do you again reconcile that 60 years today of independence and you've seen how many young people now have their own businesses?
Now, first and foremost, 2 weeks ago, His Excellency HH, when he was in Rwanda, he did remind the Zambian people in the 70s, the economy in the Copper Belt was very good. Now, 70s, there was there was privatization. All the mines were owned by the Zambians in terms of owning the means of production. To own the economy, you must own the means of production.
Only government or even private individuals?
Yeah, look, many private individuals emerged. And mind you, we had banks here which were giving loans. Zambia National Commercial Bank is one of those. Lima Bank, Agriculture Bank. We had so many banks which were assisting and at a very little interest rate, assisting Zambians. And mind you, that it's only UNIP that took a step of skills training to Zambians. UNIP identified your talents when you were at school, from grade 5, 6, 7. You are identified, and the career masters will tell you, based on your talent, you can be a doctor, or you can be a lawyer, you can be this and this and that. Are you with me? Now, because of employment opportunities, those who had that talent, some of them went straight on job training. They were employed. Others went to universities, and the others, University of Zambia was the first university built by freedom fighters. And the others went, we had Hodson. You remember Kenneth Kaunda Technical College now? That was a Hodson. We had only those two institutions, and also Chalimbana Technical College, Munali, very few secondary schools at that time. So we identified your talent much earlier than is happening today.
Let me ask this question. Again, I keep going back to 60 years of independence this year. What are the generation to generation lessons? We still have a matter that is still challenging us, usually around elections. I know in '69 there was a referendum on the question of Barotse. What are your thoughts 60 years later?
Yeah, first of all, let me take you back to your question. Not all parastatals operated at a loss. I was in charge of all parastatals here in Lusaka, all of them.
You were in charge?
I was in charge. And I used to visit the parastatals in Lusaka here every 2 months or every 3 months. Did Zambia breweries make a loss? I'm asking you a question. Did the Kambara Sugar Estate make a loss? I remember only once Zambia National Commercial Bank made a loss. Records are there.
And Zambia Airways was grounded by 1994, an aircraft held in America because of debt.
Yeah, first of all, I'm not saying all parastatals made profit.
Understood.
Now, what I'm saying is this: why should you sell a company that was making profit?
Okay, so I'm going to get back to that because I'm very interested in that. But again, as we move in time from the 60s, and you paint a very good picture about how you, the young leadership that time, wanted to change the country. Again, 60 years, and we've just celebrated KK at 100. I would like to ask, after the 1969 referendum, we are still having this question. What are your thoughts 60 years later about the Barotse land issue?
First of all, I would like to take you slightly backwards. The Barotseland issue, I'm very privileged that I'm going to give you the comment on this issue. First of all, the Zambian culture is based on love, peaceful culture, right? By that time, the Prime Minister of Barotseland, Hari Mwanga Nkumbula and KK, sat down. After, I want to reveal this to you, my fellow Zambians. Barotseland was created by the British government, a protectorate, Barotseland, based on the minerals which were in the Barotseland. Western province, Southern province, Central province, Copper Belt province at that time. There was no Western province that was created after UNIP, right? Now, even today, you go out there, these provinces are the richest provinces in Zambia today, right? Now, they sat down and said, for us to create a united state
Of Zambia.
It's written, I have got that agreement in my office, which was signed on the 19th May 1964, where United States Zambia was created. The Prime Minister of Barotseland signed. You've got a copy.
Okay.
Many signed. KK signed as a Prime Minister of Northern Rhodesia, and many others, including the British government, signed that document. Now, the Barotse Protectorate, right, ceased to be a Barotse Protectorate after signing that document by the Barotse Prime Minister at that time. We have formed one united Zambia. All of us, whether they are Losses, they are Bembas, they are Ngonis, we all come from Okola, from one house.
Let me go forward again. In 1972, in December, from the multi-party states, multi-party political system we had, the ANC and UNIP, in 1972, the leadership, again you saw it upon yourselves that we needed one party. You termed it one-party participatory democracy. What was the motivation?
Now, let me tell you one thing. From 1964 up to 1991, Kaunda and his leadership appointed to the leadership all 73 tribes at the party, at the national level. ANC leaders were appointed as ministers, district governors, you name them all. Are you with me?
Between 1964 and 72.
22 years. There was no loafer. Kaunda was for everybody. And Hari Mwanga Nkumbula, his men, after being appointed as ministers and working in all various capacities, realized to say, is there any need for us to be quarreling? Is there any need? Look at what is happening in Zambia today. You have 49 or 48, 58 political parties. For what reason? And you say we are being democratic. I'm requesting my fellow Zambians. This is a sheer wasting of time. We should concentrate on development, developing the living standards of the Zambian people. Let Zambians enjoy than having so many political parties. Look at America, look at Britain, Germany, Russia, to have 49 political parties to say 49 political parties makes us to be democratic.
So that was why 72?
Yes. So now, that Choma Declaration was not attended by Kenneth Kaunda. It was organized by late, may so rest in peace, Hari Mwanga Nkumbula. I knew Hari Mwanga Nkumbula in Chilenje, was my neighbor. It was the road that separated his offices and where I was staying. I interacted with him very, very well. So this is exactly Hari Mwanga Nkumbula invited, I can remember maybe 10, 12 or 14 delegates from UNIP to Choma conference. And then Mwanga Nkumbula declared one-party state. What Kaunda did was to add on one-party participatory democracy. That was Kaunda added to that.
to continue with the culture of unity and humanism.
Yes, and look, first of all, go outside today. Can you point at the development of MMD today? Can you point at the development of PF today? Can you do that? No. All what you see, including roads, we had no tarmac roads from Lusaka to provinces. It's all UNIP. Are you with me? All what you are looking at in 27 years, UNIP has left the development. And even the peace that I'm here talking freely because of UNIP.
And you in particular played a big role in the
I played a
setting
big
up
role,
of the
yes,
airport.
and this is why I'm able to tell my fellow
Air Force.
Zambians the truth. Are you with me? So, Choma Declaration, even when it was done, Kaunda continued with the same culture because, one, UNIP as a party was not there to separate Zambians. We all come from the same family, the same house. We don't know in Nicola who came from a man's house or came from the woman's house. We're all the same.
As we approached the 80s, after the one-party participatory democracy in 1972, there seemed to then be a lot of dissent about personal freedoms, the freedoms of expression, about government not tolerating different views. I think the government got into problems with the IMF. I think in 1988, the IMF discussions collapsed. And of course, the government had problems because of copper prices collapsing and oil prices. So when did you start seeing it go wrong? When did you begin to see it go wrong?
No. First of all, big powers will never be happy when a developing country is peaceful and a peaceful country is developing. Big powers, 1991, I'm the last senior governor, Minister of State for Lusaka here. Jimmy Carter walks into my office.
President Jimmy Carter?
Yes. And he said, Colonel, we know you. We started talking. I offered him a drink. And he says, Colonel, I want to reveal to you that we have come to rig the elections. I asked him, I said, Your Excellency, can you give me the reasons why? He says, look, there has never been a country in the world that has enjoyed peace for 27 years.
He said those words to you?
Words to me in my office. And then he says, how can everybody in Zambia be a worker? How? Why is this? And then he went further to say, we want Zambian democracy to improve. I said, how can we improve democracy? Because even in UNIP, we allow people to talk. We allow people to criticize whatever is going wrong. He told me this. And then I realized to say, why has he picked on me to come and review the rigging of the elections? I called on the hotline. He said, the late daddy of mine, KK. Said, Daddy, look, here in the office I've got this former president of America. Look what he has reviewed. You told me yesterday he visited you. Yes, did he review this? He says, no. I said, I'm giving him K1, my vehicle, official vehicle, to bring him to State House. Let him come and repeat what he has told me to you. I gave him a vehicle, and he went and repeated what he told me. Now, at that time, Christopher Kakubo, who stood in Kabwata, died. And they wanted to postpone the elections in Kabwata. I said, no. I will take up his place. And Jim Carter said, I'll be with you in Kabwata. MMD, who featured in Kabwata, was the late Chirufia Michael Sata, His Excellency. May so rest in peace. He was part of my relation. So he stood in there. And even when we were counting in the Kabwata Welfare Hall votes, Jim Carter was between me and Sata. He was in between here. And then I used to tell you, Your Excellency, look at the number of votes compared to a number of registered voters in this polling station.
But who was in charge? Wasn't it you, the leaders of your...
No. Rigging. When you rig, you have more votes. Are you with me? Yes. Than the registered number of votes. And I sued Chirufia Sata to High Court. I took him to High Court. And the High Court said... Again,
let me ask you this question, sir. You were the UNIP leadership, including the Satas, the Scotawinas, the Venomwangas, the various leaders. They are the same ones who who had a disagreement with UNIP and went on to be the first leaders of MMD.
No. The reason is money.
Uh-huh.
Are you with me? Because in UNIP, we don't agree to form a class society of the rich and the poor. We were all at par. Are you with me?
But if,
Let
if
me
MMD
finish.
won, were you hearing the people, what they were saying?
We were hearing and we were telling to them. We said, look, humanism does not allow a class society. And mind you, humanism was even improved on, although we have Christian values in humanism, for declaring Zambia a Christian nation, after UNIP. Are you with me? Why is in a Christian nation are you allowing a class society? The rich and the poor. In a Christian, let me tell you give me one example. Me, I fear God, and I hope what I'm going to tell you, Jesus Christ will be kind to me when I die, so that I can join him in his kingdom. Are you with me? When Jesus Christ grew up and he started recruiting the apostles, he recruited two types of apostles, the rich and the poor. And he asked the rich, go and sell your properties and come and follow me. Jesus Christ himself. And why should we have, in a Christian nation, a class society?
So you, after 60 years of independence, you're still against entrepreneurs, capitalists who can become very wealthy, as we've seen with new businesses such as in technology in America, the Zuckerbergs and all these Elon Musk and them, who have become billionaires, bigger than even their wealth, bigger than even many African governments, economies. You're still against private
No,
sector.
I've already stated to say that if you acquire wealth in a genuine manner, you are welcome. And that's why at the beginning, each one of us must account for his or her wealth.
But even
So that we know to say,
but if people acquire it well properly,
they can do whatever they want
but
to.
it will still create a class society because some will have more.
No. What it means is, if you acquire more wealth, and I do not have wealth, the government resources will come to me. So supplementing you because you are already up there. And the UNIP leadership code, all right, made it a point to say, you have got wealth now, can you choose? Are you going to be paid from your own resources or we pay from the government resources? We looked into all this.
And people said it is the UNIP code that kept most of the leadership in this country poor.
No, how? Because we never stopped your business. You continued with your business. Or what we did was, look, you are now making two salaries. One salary from the government, one salary from your own business. Can you choose which one? Do you like to be getting salary from your business and you sacrifice, you give free service to the Zambian people? Are you with me?
Isn't that today people would say that is an infringement on one's freedom of association of human rights? One can have a business, one can decide to be in public service.
No problem. Why? It's up to an individual. You want to serve the people. God created you to serve human being, nothing else. God, that's what we are here for.
Tell me, if you could speak to every Zambian now, 60 years later, what is your number one generation to generation lesson? What would you be telling young people who are 25 years and below today? They're on their social media. I'm sure you've got grandchildren. They're on the social media the whole day. They think being a big musician and being rich is the best thing. What would you tell young people today?
First and foremost is this, that today is a Labor Day, mind you. We must celebrate the achievements through labor. Is Zambia using labor efficiently? And if you are using labor efficiently, means that labor is a tool of progress. That benefiting Zambians. Are you with me?
Are Zambians good workers? Do
Are
they work
Zambians
hard?
lazy workers? Because there are two classes in Zambia. Hard workers and lazy. All right? Coupled with the high crime in Zambia because of poverty. Are you with me? What are we doing? Look, for me, I believe that...
What should families do?
Pardon?
What should families do? Because children are in these families.
Look, Look, the families are supposed to be the way it was during Kaunda's time. Families were visited by the leadership. Families were guided. Are you with me? You remember we introduced the village regrouping. In a village you form a cooperative during Dora Kaunda. Are you with me? Why haven't we continued to do that? Look, UNIP will never stop anybody from being a billionaire as long as he has acquired his wealth, are you with me, in a right manner. It's in the leadership code.
And the young people?
The younger people, problem we have with the younger people is this one, from 40 years and below, they are not politically mature.
They're not politically mature.
Yeah, they are not politically mature.
Is it our education system?
No, it's not the education system. It's because since 1991 to date, political education in Zambia is no longer there. Mind you, we had political education during UNIP, during working areas. Civil service, they used to spend maybe in a month 2 hours or 3 hours learning political education at places of work, and the institutions were established in Zambia. How can somebody be a leader without political background? I'm asking you this question. What I'm talking about is because I was exposed. How can you be a leader? Even if you want to acquire your own wealth, how can you acquire your own wealth without political education? Can you lead a country blindly? No. No. Let us change, my fellow Zambians. Let's go back. I must conclude by saying, on this particular topic, by saying that it was wrong for MMD, PF, and UPND to abandon all good things that UNIP did for this country and start afresh.
You're saying our politics have not been incremental?
No.
They have been abolished and start again?
Whatever. In Zambia, go to the records. What UNIP did was so forgotten about. What MMD did was forgotten about. What PF did was forgotten about. Are you with me? Each elected political party wants to start afresh. There's no continuity. And look, I'm an old man. I feel sad for you younger people. This country will never develop if there's no continuity. Choose on good things done by the previous government and continue improving on them. This is how Britain, America, Russia developed. You can't abandon.
That's the message for 60 years of
Yes, yes, this is the message.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I am so humbled to have had you on this conversation. I think this was so engaging. It is such generational to generational knowledge. We've learnt a lot of things, myself especially, about the beginnings of this country. I wonder why all these are not in many books. So that people can read about your thoughts as the early independence generation.
The reason is very clear, my dear. The reason is very clear. All what you want is money. Forget about history about this country. Forget about what Zambia went through. All what you're interested in is money. All younger men and women, their interest is money.
Thank you. On that note, thank you so much for this conversation. I do hope that from this conversation today, many of you, especially the young people, that you picked something from these very important generation to generation lessons on a lot of topics that are critical to our country. We thought it was important in commemorating the KK 100, the African Union Day on Africa Freedom Day on May 25th, that maybe we just take a step back into history and see who are we, where have we come from, what do we have, what is our history, what can we learn. And I hope that from the conversation with Lieutenant Colonel Henry Mioba, you really did pick some positives for our country. Let's remember, we only have one Zambia, one flag, and it is important that we continue to be kind to one another.